Good morning and welcome to the Rivers Training for Birth. My name is Megan Russell and I will be your trainer today. On behalf of the state of Rhode Island and Quantum Mark, I wanted to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to learn about this new system. The goals of this session are to understand the benefits of an electronic birth system, learn how to log in and search rivers, start and complete the information on an electronic birth record, and print birth forms. We will also go over the process for electronically certifying birth records. There are several benefits to the new Rivers birth system, which you will see listed on your screen. Rivers is a real-time, web-based system that meets the long-term needs of Rhode Island through improved collecting, registering, amending, and issuing of birth records. The new system has an electronic process for the VAP, the Voluntary Acknowledgement of Parentage. You also have the ability to abandon records and email certifiers to remind them to certify a record. Green check marks now appear on the Resolve tabs in the record, and users are able to reset passwords and PIN numbers through the system. All modules, birth, death, and fetal death, are now available in one system. Finally, new user enrollment forms are now available to residents through the Rivers system. This is an overview of how a birth is registered in the Rivers system. First, a birth event occurs at the facility. You, as the certifying physician, will log into Rivers and enter the birth data, or you will accept a record from a facility staff member who has already filled out the birth information. If a voluntary acknowledgement of parentage is requested, the form will be completed. You will then electronically sign and certify the record with a PIN number, and the record is released statistically and legally for registration. With that overview of the process complete, let's see how it works in the system. This is the Rivers homepage you'll see when you go to the website. Down here at the bottom, you'll see the Rhode Island Department of Health Vital Records office hours, and you'll see a link to report Rivers issues as well as your new user enrollment forms here. Up here at the top where it says log into Rivers, I'll go ahead and click. And then you'll be sent to a screen where you'll need to agree to the terms and conditions. And then you'll be directed to the login page. Now, this is the login page where you'll enter your username and password. If you forget your password, you can click Forgot Password, and then you'll just enter your username and email address on file, and the system will send you instructions to reset your password as well as a temporary password. Next, you'll be directed to a page which allows you to select your location from a drop-down menu. Many people only have one location, but if you do work out of multiple locations, they will all be listed here, and you will just select the one that you are currently working at. This is the global module, or sort of the landing page when you log into Rivers. Under Functions, you can switch your location or exit. Under Tools, you can change your password or set up a printer. Under Help, you can get administrator help, learn more about Rivers, or contact the help desk. Most often you will be starting in the birth module, so that is where I'm going to start today, here at the top where it says birth. Now you'll see under Function, once again, you can switch your location or exit, and then you can enter the system in a variety of different ways, which we'll talk about as we move through a record example today. You also have the same tools, help section, and then you can view some different types of reports here as well. Now we are going to start in Function, Labor and Delivery. There's two places where you'll most often be going to depending on your facility. It will either be Labor and Delivery or Birth Registration. So for our first example, we're going to be starting in Labor and Delivery. Okay, as soon as it loads here, you'll see a variety of icons in the upper left-hand corner that will help us navigate the system more quickly and easily. You can start a new record or search for a record. You can save, cancel, or abandon. And then the blue arrows allow you to work within your work queue, and the green arrows allow you to move between tabs. This is your unresolved work queue filter. I can view all of my unresolved records or records that are just pending certification by clicking here. And then you'll see that there are 60 unresolved records, and I can view those records at my facility by clicking this drop-down menu and viewing them from the oldest records at the top to the newest records down here at the bottom. You can also search for specific records by clicking that search icon here or by clicking record search. You can search using the child's date of birth and any more specific information that you would like to include. So for example, perhaps a facility staff member has designated you as the certifying physician on a record, and you need to come in and find that record. Well, it might be difficult if there are many records in that drop-down menu, so you might want to search using the child's date of birth and any more specific information. So you can include the exact date of birth here, or perhaps you know that the birth occurred in June, but you're not sure about the exact day. You can search all of the June 2022 records by searching 0600-2022, and then you could include any more specific information here about the child's name, mother's name, or the father's name. That's not necessary. You only need the child's date of birth, but that can help you narrow down results as well. And then any results that match will show up down here at the bottom. So that is another way to search for records. Now, depending on your facility practices and policies, you may only be coming in here to certify records. So these records may already be completely done for you by a facility staff member, and your only job would be to come in and certify those records. So to do that, you could look at all of your unresolved records. You could search for a record like we just showed, or you could look at all of your records pending certification. When I do that, you'll see now there's only 45 records that are pending certification. You can find the one that you are looking for. And as soon as it opens, oops, I think I clicked on the wrong one here. This one is ready. So I clicked on the wrong one, but this one is completely done and ready to certify. So this one has been done by a facility staff member. I've been designated as the certifying physician on the record. All I need to do is click on it. It will tell me the record is ready to certify. I'll be able to see a preview of the record. If you want to see more specific detail, you can click the preview button here, and a PDF version will open of the record, which it looks like right now it is taking a minute to load, but the entire record can open if you would like to see it. And then you can click certification. Check this box saying I verify that a live birth occurred at the location, date, and time indicated on this birth record. You'll enter your PIN number that you received when you registered for Rivers. If you ever forget that PIN number, you can just click Forgot PIN, and it will allow you to reset your PIN number. And the record is certified. So that is the first way that you can certify records. You can just come in, pull up records that are completely finished, put in your PIN number to certify, and that's it. So depending on your facility, that might be how you do it every single time. Now, in other facilities, you may need to fill out the labor and delivery fields. So this is labor and delivery, how we've entered today, and you may need to start new records here and fill out these 4 fields for labor and delivery before passing it on to a facility staff member to complete all of the other demographic pieces of the record. So in order to start a new record in labor and delivery, you can either click this new icon in the upper left-hand corner, or you can click record new. Either way, it will start a new record for you, and you'll be able to begin filling it out. So first is the delivery information. You'll choose the record type, either born at this facility, born on arrival, home birth intended or not, out of institution birth, or surrogacy. I'm going to choose born at this facility for this example. I'll say the plurality is single, and then the birth order and number of live births will populate for me. For the date of birth, I'm going to say that the child was born on today's date. And if you're ever entering today's date into the system, Rivers has a nice feature where you can actually just type the letter T, and today's date will populate for you. That is a double data entry field, so it will ask that you enter the date of birth twice. And then I'll enter the time of birth here, and you'll enter AM or PM. Next is the mother's current legal name. So first you'll pick her title preference, either mother, father, or parent. And then you'll enter the mother's name here. Suffix, if there is one. If not, you can leave that blank. And then you'll enter the mother's medical record number. Now, the facility information here is already done for us because that is how we logged in today. So there's nothing more you need to do. You'll enter the child's weight information, and if you enter in grams, then pounds and ounces will populate for you. APGAR score at 5 minutes, and if that score is less than 6, then you do need to enter the score at 10 minutes as well. If the infant was transferred within 24 hours of delivery, you'll say which facility the infant was transferred to, but in this case, I'm going to say no, and then I'm going to save. Now, it's very important that you save each tab as you go because Rivers will not auto-save unless the system stays open. So if you are working in the system, things will auto-save, but if something goes wrong, like your internet goes out or you lose power, then the system will close and nothing will be saved unless you've recently manually clicked the save button. So it's a good habit to just get into each tab just to save. It says you're going to start a new record because this is the first time I'm saving on this record. So I'll say, yes, I'm ready to proceed. And the record is created successfully. So I'm done with the first tab here. You'll see everything is now white, so it is resolved. And I'll move on to Mother Medical 1. Fetal presentation at birth, I'll say breech. Final route and method of delivery, I'll say cesarean. If cesarean was a trial of labor attempted, I'll say yes. And then for exposure, infections present or treated during pregnancy, you'll check all that apply here. Risk factors in this pregnancy, you'll check all that apply here. If the infant is COVID-19 positive, you'll indicate that here, and then save this tab. Okay, Mother Medical 2 is next. Obstetric procedures, gestational age calculation, characteristics of labor and delivery. You'll just check all that apply on each of these different sections. Maternal morbidity, I'll say none of the above, and onset of labor. So for each one, you'll just check that each thing is checked off if it applies to that situation, and then you can save that tab and move on to the last tab, which is the attendant and certifier information. So you'll need to search for the attendant using this green magnifying glass, and then you can type in the last name of the attendant, at least the first 2 characters of the last name. And then if that attendant is in the Rivers system, they'll show up here. If not, you can choose other and enter the information manually. But in this case, the attendant is in the system, so all of the information is entered. If the certifier, you, are the same as the attendant, then you will check this box here. But if you are not the attendant, then you will search for your own name using that green magnifying glass, just like how we did for the attendant. I'll check this box and say it is the same. And then I'm going to save. Now, when I save, it's going to tell me that this record is ready to certify. So I've done all the pieces as the physician that need to be done by the physician in labor and delivery. So I can certify this record before it's sent to the facility staff member. So same process as before. I'll go ahead and preview the record. I'll click certification. I verify that a live birth occurred at the location, date, and time indicated on this birth record. I'll enter my PIN number, and I'm ready to certify. Okay, so a little recap. We've done 2 types of examples. Depending on your facility, You may come in and just certify records that are already completed fully by another facility staff member, like we did in our first example by just pulling up a record and certifying. In our next example that we just did, we entered the labor and delivery fields, which are just very minimal pertinent medical information fields here, and we certified the record. Now this record is going to get sent off to a facility staff member to complete all of the demographic tabs, and we are all done with this record. There's nothing more that we as the physician need to do. Now in our final example, we are going to be going into the birth registration section of Rivers. So right now we were in labor and delivery, and for our last example, we're going to go into birth registration. So I'm going to click on the birth module again to get back to that home page. I'll click function, birth registration. And if your facility has any older records, you'll see a pop-up show up letting you know that you do have outstanding records, and state law does require the filing of records within 10 days of the date of birth. So you will need to resolve those records, those outstanding records, if you have any older ones. Okay, this view looks a lot like the labor and delivery view. You'll see all of those same icons here at the top. Your unresolved work queue, you have some different options here. Unlike in the labor and delivery view, you only had a couple of options to filter out your records, but in this case, you can filter out records in a variety of ways. If I look at all of my unresolved records, you'll see that these are just filtered by my records. I am the certifier on these records. So in this case, I can't see all of the facility records. I'll only see my records, and there are 16 unresolved records. So this is also a place that you can come and you can pick up records that have been started by a facility staff member, and you'll be able to open up those records and release them in birth registration as well. So this record is completely done. It says it's ready for legal and statistical release and certification. I'm not going to show you again because it's the same process that we just did, but you can pick up records here to certify them just as you could in labor and delivery. Now, in birth registration, when we start a new record, you'll see that there are 12 tabs here. So it's a much more in-depth record information and data that we need to include. And most of these tabs are typically done by facility staff members. Typically, most hospitals, or most facilities, I should say, have physicians only certify or only fill out the information in labor and delivery just for time purposes. However, some facilities do require that physicians fill out the entire record from start to finish without facility staff member help. So in the event that that is your type of facility, we're going to talk about how to do an entire record from start to finish. I've started a new record here, so I'm going to choose the record type just as we did before. You'll choose the plurality. And then this time you'll see that there's a checkbox asking if this infant is deceased. So if this infant is deceased, you'll need to include the place of death, the year of death, the state file number, and the social security number for the child. Of course, if the infant is deceased, you also will need to fill out a death certificate. Now I'll go ahead and start entering the child's information down here. Suffix if there is one, if not, you can leave that blank. You'll enter the child's date of birth, just like we did in our last example, time of birth, and then you'll enter the child's sex either as male, female, X, other, or not yet determined. Oops, there we go. Mother's information is next. Just like before, I'll go ahead and fill out her information here. Suffix if there is one, if not, you can leave that blank. And then the mother's date of birth goes here. Age at the child's birth automatically populates based on the date of birth you've entered. And then the facility information is already in here because that is how we logged in today. I'm going to save this tab. It's going to ask if I'm sure I would like to create a new record because it is the first time I'm saving. And the record is created. Now you'll see that the child tab now has a green check mark because we have filled out this tab. The father tabs also have a green check mark, even though we have not entered any information for those tabs. And that's because unless you indicate that a father is on this record, the system will assume that there is no father on the record, and the tabs will lock and they'll get green check marks. So when we indicate that there is in fact a father on the record, those tabs will unlock and the green check marks will disappear. Okay, next is the mother's name prior to the first marriage. So if the mother's name prior to the first marriage is the same as her legal name, you can check that box. Mother's information is next. You'll search for the birthplace. If she was born in the States, then you can begin typing the state that you're looking for and it should show right up. If she was born out of the United States, you can filter by clicking this checkbox, and foreign countries will filter for you in the drop-down menu. Social security number, and then the marital status for the mother is next. Now, the PA piece means the parental acknowledgement. That's for paternity. So if she was never married, you need to be sure to check whether or not there is PA involved. And then you have some other options too for married, divorced, widowed, married and separated, or not stated and unknown. So I'm going to say never married with PA. Then you'll see that the paternity affidavit information will open up, asking me for that paternity affidavit, but I don't have that yet. So we're going to come back to that at the end of this record. And for now, we're going to leave those tabs blank, or those fields blank, I should say. Mother's email address is next. That's not required, but it can be helpful if you do need to get in contact with the mother at a later date. Social security number requested for the child, and child savings account program. Next is the mother's residence address information. And just a reminder, obviously this is a lot for any physician to need to fill out, and that's why typically the facility staff member would be doing this portion. But in certain types of facilities and in different situations, you may have to fill this out. So I'm just going to quickly move through it so you know what to expect. Okay, the state is Rhode Island, so all of the Rhode Island cities and towns will populate here. County is going to automatically populate for me based on the city or town I chose. And then the zip codes for that city or town will also show up here. If the mother's mailing address is the same as the residence address, you can check this box here and then save. Okay, you'll see that the mother tab did not get a green check mark because we have those unresolved tabs here, but the father tabs did open up so that we can enter the father's information now that we indicated there is a paternity acknowledgement on the record. Okay, mother's demographics are next. You'll select her education level. Primary language spoken at home automatically populates to English, but you can choose any other language or choose other or unknown. Mother's ethnicity is next, and then race is next, and you can choose more than one race if necessary. I'm going to save this tab and then move on to the father's information. Father's legal name is next. I'm going to enter that here. Suffix if there is one, and then if the father's name prior to his first marriage is the same as his legal name, you can check this box. Father's date of birth is next, and then his age will automatically populate. Father's birthplace is next. You can choose it from this drop-down menu, or check this box if you need to filter foreign countries. Okay, next is the father's social security number. And if the father's residence is the same as the mother's, you can check this box and then save. Father's demographics are next. You'll choose the education level, the ethnicity, and the race. You can choose more than one race if necessary, and then save that tab. Mother medical 1 is next. Pre-pregnancy weight, weight at delivery, and then the mother's height in feet and inches. And then you'll indicate whether or not the mother received WIC, whether she received the Tdap vaccination, and whether or not she received the influenza vaccination. If the mother smoked cigarettes before or during pregnancy, you'll indicate that here, and then you'll enter the number of cigarettes and number of packs. If you enter by packs, then the number of cigarettes will populate for you. I'm going to say she did not smoke. She did not use alcohol during the pregnancy. If she did, you would enter the average number of drinks per week here. If the mother was the informant, you'll check this box and then you can save this tab. Okay, Mother Medical 2 is next. This is the mother's pregnancy history. So if this was the mother's first pregnancy, you can say yes and then move on. If it was not the mother's first pregnancy, you'll need to indicate the number of previous live births and other pregnancy outcomes. Prenatal information is next. If the mother did receive prenatal care, you'll enter the date of the first prenatal care visit, date of the last prenatal care visit, and total number of prenatal care visits, as well as the date the last normal menses began. If the mother was transferred for delivery, you'll indicate that here, and if she was, you need to say from which facility. Payment information is next. I'm going to say self-pay, but if it was some type of insurance, you would include the subsource of payment and insurance number. I'm going to save and move on to Mother Medical 3. Fetal presentation at birth. This is the same as our last example. You'll just go ahead and fill out the fetal presentation and final route and method of delivery. Exposure and infections treated or present during pregnancy. You can include all that apply here. Any risk factors in this pregnancy. And then if the infant is COVID-19 positive at the time of the report, you'll indicate that here. I'm going to save this tab and move on to Mother Medical 4, obstetric procedures, gestational age, characteristics of labor and delivery, maternal morbidity, and then onset of labor. I'm going to save this tab and move on to newborn stats. Child's medical record number, and then OB estimated gestation completed in weeks. APGAR score at 5 minutes. Now remember, if that is less than 6, you do need to indicate the score at 10 minutes. Was the infant transferred within 24 hours of delivery? If the infant was transferred, you'll need to indicate to which facility over here. If the infant is living at the time of the report, this is very important that this question stays up to date. So if the infant is living at this time, but then by the time I file the report, something has happened and the infant is no longer living, then I do need to come back to this and update the answer for the time of filing the report. Is the infant being breastfed even partially? You can indicate that here. And then the child's weight information here. Okay, I'm going to save this tab and move on to abnormal conditions and congenital anomalies for the child. You'll check all that apply and then save this tab and move on to the attendant and certifier information. So just like in our last example, you'll search for the attendant. You at least need the first 2 letters of the last name. If they are in the system, you'll see it in the drop-down menu. If they are not, you can click Other and manually enter the information there. If the certifier, you, are the same as the attendant, then you'll check this box. If not, you'll search using that green magnifying glass, just like last time. In this case, I'm going to say it is the same, and then I'm going to save. Okay, now it's telling me that the record is technically ready to certify. Do you wish to certify the record? So I'm going to say no at this point because I do want to show you how to do the paternity affidavit. You'll see down here at the bottom there is a comments tab that does not have a green check mark, and that is because comments are optional. They are not required, but you can add a comment if you would like to. You'll see that the Mother tab also does not have a green check mark. And this unresolved/stakeholders button can be helpful to show you what is still missing on this record. So if I click that, it'll show me that on the Mother tab, there are 2 missing fields, and it was the date the paternity affidavit was sent and the date the paternity affidavit was signed. So if I click on those fields, it will take me straight to them, and that can be a helpful tool to use if you're not sure what is missing on a record. So I do need to get the paternity affidavit information. Now, once again, this is typically always going to be done by a facility staff member, but in the event that you need to do it, it's a pretty simple, quick process. So we'll just talk about how to do that quickly right now. You'll click Record, Print, Voluntary Acknowledgement of Paternity, and then you'll print off the PDF form right here. Okay, it is not wanting to show me the PDF. Let me try that one more time just so you can see it. It's just loading a little bit slowly today as the system is going live. This is just a training environment, so my training environment sometimes gets a little bit slow when there's an update in process. But anyway, it would print out, and then you would click Voluntary Acknowledgement of Paternity, and you would have that mother and or father sign the paper copy that you just printed. And you would click either mother and or father, depending on that situation. Then you would upload that piece of paper copy that we just printed and had them sign. You would click Choose File. You'd find that file that you are looking for, and you'll be able to see what it looks like here since it wouldn't load for us earlier. I'll click Upload Document, and then a preview will show up of that document. So this is what it looks like. You would have had it printed out, and then it would be signed by the mother and or father. And then you would print it one more time just to say that both signatures are on it. Everything is now completed, and the system will know that the uploaded VIP is signed and in the system. And for whatever reason, it does not want to show it to me, but you get the idea. It will print out and everything is signed and completed at that point. Now, the date the paternity affidavit was sent would be today's date, and the date the affidavit was signed would be today's date. And then you'll see that the mother tab now has a green check mark. I'm going to save this tab. And now the record is ready to certify. So at this point, you can say no if you're not ready to certify. You want to make a last minute change perhaps, but I'm going to say yes, the record is ready to certify. Certification, check that box, verifying that a live birth occurred at the time, location, and date indicated on the birth record. You'd enter your PIN number once again and certify the record. Okay, so now since I have started this record on my own and I have done all of the demographic tabs, all of the statistical information, legal information, and certified, it is going to ask if I want to legally release the record and statistically release the record. So I'm going to do both of those releases, and now the record is released to the state for filing. So now I can view this record, but you'll see everything is now locked. I cannot make any changes to this record because it is certified and released. So that is how you would fill out all of the birth data on the form from start to finish and complete that paternity acknowledgement documentation. Let's do a little recap once again, because I know we've had several examples. Depending on your facility will depend on how you fill out birth records. You may just come in and certify records that are already completed by facility staff. That was our first example where we just opened a record from the work queue, certified, and we were done. In the next example, we went in through labor and delivery, and we just filled out those few tabs on the left-hand side, those pertinent medical pieces of information. We certified it and sent it off to a facility staff member to complete the rest. In our final example, we did the entire record from start to finish without a facility staff member's help. We certified that record and released it. So those are the 3 different ways that you can complete birth records in the system as a physician. For our final, not really an example, but our final point, we are going to talk about how to make amendments and corrections on records. Now, this is typically going to be done by facility staff members as well, but depending on your facility, you may need to do some different types of corrections. So we'll talk about how to do that now. I'm going to click on the birth module here at the top again, just to get back to the home page. And we're going to talk about the difference between statistical corrections and amendments first. So both corrections and amendments do need to be initiated by the state. You will need to contact the state by email or phone to begin that process. And amendments are made more than 1 year after registration. And the fact that there was an amendment will appear on the certificate, and there is a fee associated with those. Only the state can complete the amendment process. It cannot be done at the facility level at all. So you will never need to create an amendment in the system. Statistical corrections, however, are typically just typographical errors. They are done under 1 year from registration, and they are minor corrections, so they have no fee. The correction will appear on the certificate, but the fact that there was a change is not on the certificate. And facilities can complete statistical corrections, although they do need to be initiated at the state. So we'll go through that process right now. Once again, we clicked on that birth module. This time, instead of clicking birth registration or labor and delivery, we're going to click facility statistical correction. Okay, and there's only one facility statistical correction for our facility in the work queue that's been initiated by the state. So I'm going to choose that one. You'll see a preview of the record here, and then you'll click Record Statistical Correction. Okay, as soon as it loads, you'll see that we can view the entire record, and you'll see that these little wrench icons will appear, and those are spaces where I can make a correction or a change. So I'm going to say that there needs to be a change made to the time of birth. You'll see up here the old data shows what's already on the record. And down here, the new data are places where we can make changes. So it could be spelling changes, it could be actual medical data information. It's typically typographical errors. And in this case, I'm going to be changing the time of birth. So I'm going to say that the time of birth was actually 8:30 p.m. I can leave any comments as to why there was the error there. And then any supplemental documentation can be added here, maybe an obstetric record or something like that. And I would include the document type, who issued it, the date issued, and the date of the document. And I could upload that document by scanning or just uploading files. And then I would save that. When you've made all of the changes that you need to make, you can confirm the changes. And now you'll see on the record that the time of birth has changed to 8:30 p.m. And this red exclamation point will tell you what the original value was on the record if you click on that. And the new value is shown right here on the record for you to view as well. When you have made all the corrections that you need to make, you can click Process, Submit. And that is how you would create a statistical correction in the system. This slide, you'll find our support contacts. On behalf of the state of Rhode Island and QuantumMark, I really appreciate your time today and want to thank you so much for joining me. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.